telling part is that all the provinces agree. And provinces that are NDP provinces, Conservative provinces, and Liberal provinces. So this is something that all members in the House should agree with, because Canadians deserve safe and secure retirement. So I encourage the member and his party to support our bill. Thank you.
Good job, Ross.
Statements by members. Déclaration de député. Honorable député de Sudbury.
The Honourable Member for Sudbury. Mr. Speaker, do you know one of these people who's just able to transform their community through their leadership? Well, in Sudbury, Gisèle Chrétien is one of these people who has made our community a great place to live. A tireless volunteer, she's given her time for projects in health, education, economic development, and French language services. She spearheaded the foundation of Collège Boréal. She directed the board of the college for nearly a decade. She led the board of TFO and Horizon Santé Nord, and she founded a support group for children with diabetes. She also sat on the board of directors of the Children's Aid Society and the Chamber of Commerce, and published a book about leadership. Recently, she was awarded the 2016 Prix de la Francophonie de la CFO for the Greater Sudbury area. She is the living proof that one person can enrich an entire community. Congratulations, and thank you, Gisèle.
Honourable Member for St. Albert, Edmonton.
Mr. Speaker, last month the Senate passed Bill S-217 by a wide margin with the support of Liberal and Conservative senators alike. The criminal history of an accused seeking bail is relevant and material to the proper determination of a bail application hearing. Yet under the criminal code, it is discretionary whether the Crown leads such evidence. This loophole proved fatal to Constable David Wynne, who was shot and killed in the line of duty by someone who was out on bail, notwithstanding that they had an extensive criminal history, and yet none of that information was brought forward to the attention of the judge. Mr. Speaker, Bill S-217 is common-sense legislation that seeks to enhance public safety by ensuring that what happened to Constable Wynne never happens again. I urge the government to join their Liberal colleagues in the Senate and support Bill S-217.
The Honourable Member for Vaughan Woodbridge.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to congratulate Davina Podakidis, a grade 12 student from Holy Cross Catholic Academy in Woodbridge, for reaching the top 15 in the 2016 Breakthrough Junior Challenge. Founded by Facebook creators Mark Zuckerberg and Sergey Brin, the challenge is an annual global competition celebrating excellence in science. Davina's achievement is highlighted as a 2016 challenge drew 6,000 applications from over 100 countries. A superb student, piano teacher, athlete, and a member of her school's student council, Davina still found time to produce a video explaining what gravitational waves are and what happens when they hit Earth. The winner of the challenge will be selected on December 4th and receives a $250,000 scholarship. Mr. Speaker, let's wish Davina success as she represents Canada on the global stage, and that we are proud of this remarkable young woman. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Abitibi by James Nunavik.
Speaker, almost a year ago, just on the other side of the river here, the Prime Minister told the chiefs of the Assembly of First Nations, and I quote, to support the work of reconciliation and continue the necessary process of truth-telling and healing, we'll work with you to enact the recommendations of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, starting with the implementation of the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. Well, Mr. Speaker, you promised real change, yet, unfortunately, we have yet to see the real or the change in this case. We are heading towards the 150th anniversary of this place we now call Canada. The first peoples of this country should not have to wait another 150 years to see their fundamental human rights protected, respected, and fulfilled. So, Mr. Speaker, I invite the Prime Minister to respect that promise of reconciliation with the first peoples of this country.
The Honourable Member for Bay of Quinte.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is with great pride that I share with you another remarkable accomplishment for my riding. Norman Hardy, a winemaker in Prince Edward County, has received global recognition for his county Chardonnay. These accolades are a reflection of Norman's winemaking expertise and his artistry, as well as the rich agricultural land that is home to Ontario's newest wine region. His 2013 County Chardonnay has been placed in categories that include the most exciting wines for the 21st century so far and the best wines of the year for 2016. This year, his County Chard ranked as the top Chardonnay on the list. I send my sincere congratulations to Norman Hardy for his passion, his dedication to his craft. The international attention you are receiving is further raising the profile of the county and inspiring budding winemakers in the area. I encourage all my colleagues to look for Norman's critically acclaimed wines or tour the many wineries in Prince Edward County for a truly memorable experience. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Dufferin-Caledon.
Mr. Speaker, I'm very proud to be recognizing Share Agricultural Foundation, an organization founded by Peel farmers and which has had an immense impact on improving the quality of life in impoverished agricultural-based communities in the developing world. This organization has touched the lives of thousands of countries, such as Honduras, El Salvador, Brazil, Belize, Guatemala, Nicaragua, Haiti, Bolivia, and Cambodia, to name a few. SHARE has achieved this success through its unwavering commitment to the pass-on principle, where individuals are provided with the necessary tools to improve their lives through their own efforts. Earlier this month, Mr. Speaker, I had the honor of congratulating SHARE on the 40th anniversary of its founding in 1976. On behalf of the residents of Dufferin-Caledon, I would like to thank SHARE's extraordinary volunteers and donors and wish this phenomenal organization another 40 years of continued success and excellence in creating healthy communities in the developing world.
Député de Thérèse-de-Blainville.
The Honourable Member for Thérèse-de-Blainville. Mr. Speaker, National Child Day will be celebrated in Canada on November 20th of this year. I had the opportunity to mark this day by speaking with young students of the Parliamentary Student Council from l'Académie Sainte-Thérèse as part of UNICEF's National Child Day initiative. I was impressed to discover that these young people were engaged and informed on issues that they cared about in their school and in their community. I would like to congratulate Julien Lavergne-Roberge, who played the role of Prime Minister, Philippe Tremblay, who played the role of Vice Prime Minister, Anthony Nasrallah, who was the moderator, and 33 other students who were involved in the council. And I'd also like to commend the work of their teacher. They're a great example. I invite my colleagues to celebrate National Child Day and to continue to listen to the concerns and interests of young people. Our children are the future of our society, and they are the leaders of tomorrow. Thank you.
The honourable member for Labrador. The honourable member, l'honorable député de Beauport, Côte.
The honourable member for Beauport, Côte de Beaupré, Île d'Orléans, Charlevoix. Mr. Speaker, in recent weeks, we have lost two great figures of the Canadian music scene. I was raised on the music of these two great icons, Leonard Cohen and Bob Walsh. These artists fed my soul and stoked a fire inside me. Leonard Cohen gave us over 20 albums, and many of his songs became timeless classics that remain indelibly etched in our hearts and minds. He received many awards, and Mr. Cohen made Canadian music known all around the world. With a passion all his own, Bob Walsh, the king of the Quebec blues, gave us, during his long and storied career, many albums, and also received many distinctions. He forever changed Quebec's music scene. Today I would like to offer the families of Mr. Cohen and Mr. Walsh my deepest condolences.
The honourable member for New Brunswick Southwest.
Mr. Speaker, with this being Entrepreneur Week, I am so pleased to rise in the House and share a few of the many attractions brought to you by the good people of New Brunswick Southwest, the gateway to the Atlantic experience. Roosevelt Campobello International Park. Stroll the summer home of President Theodore Roosevelt in one of Canada's only international parks. Minister's Island, drive over on the ocean floor. If you plan poorly, your car is 15 feet under the full tide. Whales, we have whales like Toronto has squirrels. Graham and Anne, the Dulles capital of Canada. If you don't know what Dulles is, Google it. Golf, St. Andrews by the Sea. Hole 12, hit your par 3 too hard. It's in the Atlantic Ocean. Next stop, Ireland. Want to see hundreds of more amazing gotta-see sights in the riding of New Brunswick Southwest? You'll never know if you never go. Thank you.
The honourable member for Vancouver Centre.
Mr. Speaker, this is Transgender Awareness Week. Individuals and organizations across Canada will raise the visibility of transgender and gender non-conforming persons and the problems they face daily. Les gens trans sont victimes.
Trans youth face extreme bullying and violence in school. They have high dropout rates, mental health problems, and increasing levels of suicidal ideation. Those rates can be as high as 77%, according to an Ontario study.
The hate and violence amongst trans persons is leading the way in police response with a video called Walk With Me, and in partnership with Starbucks and BC businesses, created a safe place sticker so trans persons can find a haven when threatened. Le 20 novembre aura lieu la journée des souvenirs.
On November 20th, we will observe Transgender Day of Remembrance for those who lost their lives due to bigotry, violence, and suicide.
Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister has refused to answer a very simple question I submitted about whether or not taxpayer-funded nanny services he receives qualify as a taxable benefit. This government promises transparency but has delivered the exact opposite. Canadians have a right to know about the benefits that elected officials receive. And when it comes to these benefits, whether or not a benefit is taxable is not a matter of discretion. It's a matter of law. And this Prime Minister has to follow the law just like anyone else. If he receives a taxable benefit from his employer, in this case from the taxpayer, then he has to pay tax on it. Now, the Liberal talking point on these nannies is that the Prime Minister has different needs because he has a young family. Well, I would say to him, he is not the only person in this House or in this country with a young family. When most people need outside childcare, they pay for it. Now, the Prime Minister should be prepared to answer simple questions about the benefits he receives. The Prime Minister should not expect to receive free childcare at taxpayers' expense. The Prime Minister should follow the law, and the Prime Minister should pay his taxes.
The honourable member for Winnipeg North.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. One of the most significant issues that I've had to deal with over the last number of years has been the issue of trying to be able to assist in getting families to be reunited here in Canada, in particular in Winnipeg North. It's with pleasure that I rise just to acknowledge and to commend the Minister of Immigration on doing a fantastic job at assisting in getting more and more families processed in a much speedier fashion, Madam Speaker. I think it's really all about, when we talk about immigration in many different ways, under the family sponsorships, reuniting families is a positive thing, and this is something in which this government has established as a very important priority, and I appreciate the efforts of the Minister of Immigration for all he's done in reuniting families through immigration. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member from Malpeque.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I stand to honour my friend and long-term employee on the Hill, Michael O'Neill, who passed away recently. Mike's career began in 1981, first with MP Dave Rooney, then the NDP Research Bureau, and as luck would have it, my office for the last 23 years. Saying Mike was unique would be an understatement. His corporate memory, his research and analysis, and his passionate approach to political issues were one of a kind. He did not seek credit or enjoy the spotlight. He was a sounding board, a quick and insightful thinker, and with so much filed away in his brilliant brain, always ready to help, such that even during his illness he provided wise counsel. Mike was probably most happy doing a critical analysis of the government, even when we were the government. To his wife Anne and daughter Erin, our heartfelt sympathies. Michael O'Neill made this place a better place. His efforts improved the decisions. For Canada, his loyalty was absolute. Our thanks to Mike and his family.
The
The Honourable Member for Drummond. Mr. Speaker, I'm proud to rise in the House today to announce that on the weekend of November 25th and 26th, Operation Red Nose will be kicking off its 33rd season of ride-home services in the Drummond area. I'd like to congratulate Eric Stetzkal, General Director of the company Bois et Frères, and Honorary President of this 2016 edition. I would also like to congratulate Julie Dubois, the Coordinator of Operation Red Nose in Drummondville, and Dominique Villeneuve, Head of the CEGEP Foundation in Drummondville. All proceeds will go to the CEGEP Foundation of Drummondville in order to support student athletes of the intercollegial teams in Drummondville, les Voltigeurs. I invite citizens of Drummond to take part in this 33rd season of Operation Red Nose and to use their services if they've had an extra drink. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
From Medicine Hat, Cardston Warner.
Mr. Speaker, I'm honored to rise in the House today to say thank you. Thank you to the great people of Medicine Hat, Cardston Warner for their support, trust, and hard work to bring us here. Thank you to my amazing campaign team and the hundreds of volunteers for their commitment and tireless efforts. Thank you to my wife Sue and our family for the sacrifices they have made and will continue to make. As their elected MP, I look forward to holding the Liberal government to account on issues facing my riding, including the economy, job creation, pipelines, and keeping taxes low in support of families. Residents of my riding also expect this government to ensure that our agricultural community remains strong and competitive. On October 24th, the residents of Medicine Hat, Cardston Warner sent a very strong message to the Liberal government that their policies are failing Alberta and Canada. And I'm here to deliver that message, Mr. Speaker. Thanks.
The Honourable Member for Scarborough Centre.
Mr. Speaker, we continue to be shocked and dismayed to learn of anti-Semitic incidents across the country. These incidents remind us of that we must remain vigilant, we must speak out, and we must actively work together to stop anti-Semitism in Canada. This kind of discrimination is totally unacceptable, and we cannot let it go unchallenged. All members of this House are proud to represent every Canadian, no matter the race, the religion, or the community. Our differences ought to unite us, not divide us. All of us in the House, and indeed Canadians from coast to coast to coast, must make it clear that religiously motivated attacks are contrary to Canadian values and principles. I ask all members of this House to stand together and condemn these shameful incidents.
Bravo.
Oral questions, questions orales. Honorable député Del.
The Honourable Member for Lac-Saint-Jean.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, no full-time jobs created during the first year of their mandate, but the Prime Minister can do worse yet by publicly talking about his ideas about renegotiating NAFTA. The Prime Minister naively showed his cards. How can he reassure Canadians that he will be in a position to protect jobs here in Canada? The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, our Prime Minister has been very clear from day one that he will advance Canada's national interest. The North American Free Trade Agreement is important to Canada, but it's also important to the United States. As I mentioned yesterday, there are 9 million U.S. jobs that are directly connected to the Canadian economy. 35 U.S. states that depend on Canada as their #1 customer. So we recognize the importance of NAFTA. We'll focus on good quality Canadian jobs, and we will engage with them in a manner that advances our national interest, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Lac-Saint-Jean.
Mr. Speaker, it's bad enough that this Prime Minister has failed to create a single additional full-time job in first year. Now, without being asked, he is offering to renegotiate NAFTA with the new U.S. President, putting thousands more Canadian jobs at risk. Mr. Speaker, now that the Prime Minister has naively shown his cards to the Americans, how does he plan to protect our and save Canadian jobs, not the 9 million American jobs, Canadian jobs?
The Honourable Minister of Economic Development.
Mr. Speaker, under the leadership of our Prime Minister, GM Canada has brought in 1,000 engineers here to Canada. These are engineering jobs that will create more jobs in Canada. With respect to NAFTA, the member opposite should know that when it came into effect, our collective economies were around $8 trillion. Today, our collective economies stand at $20.6 trillion. So we recognize the importance of trade. We will engage with the United States. We'll work with them to make sure we advance Canada's interests that will create good quality jobs here in Canada and grow the economy.
Honourable member for Lac-Saint-Jean.
Yes, and the Conservative Party that you have signed this agreement because that would have been very good for the country. That's what happened. Monsieur le Président, cette
Mr. Speaker, this transition raises a number of concerns today with, of course, respect to the softwood lumber agreement. American protectionism will, in fact, lead to greater insecurity questions. How are we going to face this protectionist movement? We hope that we will be able to honor Canadian workers' rights.
Economic development.
Mr. Speaker, our government has engaged and worked very closely with the U.S. on the softwood lumber file. The softwood lumber agreement expired with the previous government, and our government is absolutely engaged with the current administration. We'll work with the new president-elect, the Congress, to address and advance this issue, Mr. Speaker. Our government understands the importance of good quality jobs in the forestry sector. We'll advance this and beef and other contentious issues as well, because our Prime Minister has been very clear. We're open to ideas, open to people, and open to trade. That's how we'll grow our economy.
Opposition House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, Canada needs NAFTA. It's created millions of jobs and attracted billions of dollars in investment. And although the President-elect Trump has promised to tear up this important agreement, everybody knows that his issues have been with Mexico, not Canada. So why would the Prime Minister so foolishly wave the white flag and say that he was open up this agreement and put so many jobs at jeopardy? Why was he so foolish to do this?
The Honourable Minister of Economic Development.
Mr. Speaker, our Prime Minister has consistently advanced Canada's interests, and he knows in order to do that, we have to be very open and candid with our allies, including our most important friend, partner, and ally. That is why we proactively said, look, we understand the importance of trade, not only to Canada, but also to the United States. 9 million jobs in the U.S. are dependent on Canada. 35 states in the U.S. depend on Canada as their #1 customer. It's important to remind the mutual benefits associated with trade. That is why we had an open, candid, and honest conversation. That's what Canadians expect, and that's exactly what we'll do.
Opposition House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, it was an incredibly foolish and naive move on the part of the Prime Minister. TPP is an agreement that is also at risk, and it's also an agreement, though, that Canadians need. The upcoming U.S. administration has indicated that they won't move forward on TPP, but you know what, Mr. Speaker? That doesn't mean that Canada doesn't have to and shouldn't move forward with TPP. So here's my question. Will the Prime Minister commit to standing up for Canada's economic interests and at this weekend's APEC summit aggressively and persistently act to keep the TPP moving forward? Or is he going to do something foolish again?
The Honourable Minister of Economic Development.
Mr. Speaker, it was the government opposite that negotiated the TPP in secret. It's our government that's been very open and transparent with Canadians. That is why we're engaging with all sectors of the economy, all Canadians on this very important issue. It's important that we bring people in, because if you don't, Mr. Speaker, you see the challenges of protectionism on the rise. That's because when you have governments that do stuff in secret, that really undermines the trust that Canadians have. We've been very clear we'll engage with them to gain their trust, to advance our national interests, to promote trade, and when it comes to TPP or NAFTA, we'll always make sure Canada's interest is first and foremost.
Honourable Member for Skeena-Bulkley Valley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In their campaign platform, in the throne speech, and dozens of times in this House of Commons, Liberals have said it's time to get rid of the out-of-date and unfair first-past-the-post voting system. But today, under the guise of consultation, we see the Liberals engaging in decision-based evidence-making, apparently designed to maintain the status quo. Well, here's a little bit of real evidence for the government. Almost 90% of those who testified in front of the Multi-Party Electoral Reform Committee said it's time for proportional representation. Canadians want their voices to be heard. They want their votes to count. So will the government respect Canadians and keep their promise to make 2015 the last election under first-past-the-post?
Honourable Minister of Democratic Institutions.
Mr. Speaker, it's a great privilege for me to stand here on this traditional Algonquin land.
Members of the committee who've worked so hard and so diligently to hear from Canadians and work together to provide this House with a report. I look forward to receiving that report on December 1st and coming back to this House with a thoughtful plan forward.
Member for Skeena-Bulkley Valley.
Okay. New Democrats are doing everything in our power to achieve one of the hardest things in Canadian politics, actually have Liberals keep Liberal promises. I know. Yeah, almost 70% of MP town hall reports, 88% of expert witnesses, and 87% of Canadians who testified in front of the committee want a fair, proportional voting system. But apparently that's not enough for the government. A report out today says the Liberals are actually spending $2 million on a pop psych survey to argue against electoral reform. So will the minister at least agree that the facts are overwhelmingly in support of a proportional voting system? Yes or no?
The Honourable Minister of Democratic Institutions.
Mr. Speaker, I may be eager to respond. I've just missed rising in this place. And I want to thank the member opposite for his commitment to this file, and I want to thank him for bringing up something that we've been working on for months. We want to find as many ways as possible to hear from as many Canadians as possible on the topic of electoral reform. We want to hear about the values that matter most to them. And to that end, Mr. Speaker, we're working with Vox Pop Labs on a new initiative. And as the member opposite understands full well that standard procedures requires testing and pre-testing, we will have more information on this initiative in the coming days, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Rosemont-la-Petite-Patrie. It's happened to all of us. We've all heard people say that they won't go and vote because they don't think it'll change anything. And they're not really all that wrong. In the last election, some 9 million votes served no purpose, nothing. Because, in fact, of our old, unfair voting system. Everywhere, citizens, civil society, experts are calling for a proportional system. Will the government listen and take action to ensure that each vote counts, and so that we have a system that reflects the will of Canadians?
Mr. Speaker, we listened to Canadians when we proposed this special committee to go out there and hear from Canadians. We listened to Canadians and the members of this House when we changed the composition of that committee so that the majority would be with the opposition. We will listen to Canadians in new and innovative ways, and I look forward to receiving the committee's report on their recommendations on how we can best move forward. We will present this House with a thoughtful plan once we've received their report.
The Honourable Member for Rosemont-la-Petite-Patrie. Well, they'll listen until they hear what they want to hear. During the campaign, the Liberal leader promised with his hand on his heart that 2015 would be the last election under the current voting system. Promise made. We're going to do it. No, we're not joking. Confidence, integrity, respect, the whole shebang. But since they took power, less clarity, nuances. They're looking for an exit. They pull out bogus surveys. People want change. The opposition parties want change. So, Mr. Speaker, between you and me, was that a real promise or was it a joke?
The Minister of Democratic Institutions.
Mr. Speaker, the member opposite knows full well that we've been committed to this file since we began our mandate. The member opposite knows full well that there's a committee in place right now deliberating the outcomes that they'd like to present to this House. And the member opposite knows full well that from the very beginning we were clear we will not move forward on reform without the broad support of Canadians. I look forward to receiving that report on December 1st.
Member for Prince Albert.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberal government is sending mixed messages to the Canadian business community. Yesterday, Canada's ambassador to the U.S. said that Canada needs to work harder to educate Americans on the benefits of NAFTA. I couldn't agree more. Unfortunately, the Prime Minister served up NAFTA to President-elect Trump on a silver platter. Why is the Prime Minister and his ambassador not on the same page on Canada's most important trade deal?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of International Trade.
Thank the honourable member for his question, Mr. Speaker, as well as his work on the trade file. The benefits of NAFTA are clear, Mr. Speaker, for Canada and the United States. In 2015, trilateral merchandise trade amounted to over $1 trillion, Mr. Speaker. That's a growth of 3.6 times since 1993. The U.S. is our largest and most important trading partner. We're always going to look at ways to strengthen that relationship. Trading agreements are important. We're always going to look at ways to better those too, and that we will do in good faith. We're open to potential improvements, and that we will do, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Member for Caribou, Prince George.
Mr. Speaker, for over a year, the Liberals have claimed that the relationship between the Prime Minister and the President of the U.S. has been unprecedented. As a matter of fact, the Minister of Trade stood in the House and said that the President of the U.S. is absolutely giddy over this new relationship. Well, Mr. Speaker, this unprecedented new relationship has absolutely brought nothing to Canada. No new softwood lumber agreement, and within hours of the U.S. election results, the Prime Minister was on bended knee offering to renegotiate NAFTA. Mr. Speaker, this will have a hugely negative impact on the 400,000 Canadians that depend on the forestry industry. Why is this government so against Canadian jobs?
Mr. Speaker, I thank the honourable member for his question. On the forestry file, we have worked since day one, taking over from a previous government that had not worked on it at all, that had not opened renegotiations. We have done that. We have consulted across the country, and we have, at a number of different levels, continued to pursue negotiations with our American partners. As regards NAFTA, Mr. Speaker, we know we have an important relationship with the United States. We know how important NAFTA is, and we plan to continue to work with our partners to continue to improve that relationship and that treaty over time.
The Honourable Member for Louis Saint-Laurent. Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. In his report published this morning, the PBO on page 4 stated performance measurement framework for some federal expenditures was unequal. In other words, we don't know where they're going, and there is a lack of transparency. So, Mr. Speaker, for the 8th time, I extend a hand to our Minister of Finance. Can the Minister of Finance have an idea, a date, a time, or can he tell us when Canada will return to a balanced budget?
Ministre des Finances.
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Président.
Mr. Speaker, we know that it's very important to invest in the future for Canadians, for the middle class. Clearly, investments will improve our situation in the future with growth that is better for the middle class, for people who want to have a good job in the future. That is what our program involves. It's the right program for a better future than what we saw over the past 10 years. The Honourable Member.
No single idea when we'll get back to zero deficit. But I have a cue to the Minister. Zero deficit will be achieved under the next Conservative government.
But before that, Mr. Speaker, before that, we'll have to be subjected to this government for 3 years. What is the government going to do to help Canadians, to help entrepreneurs? Because with the Liberal carbon tax and by increasing CPP charges and with no taxes for businesses, are we going to be helping them? No.
Mr. Speaker, the reason we're acting now is because Canadians can't wait. They need jobs today and tomorrow. It is particularly ironic. It is particularly ironic, Mr. Speaker, that the party that is focused on the wealthiest Canadians, the party that's playing games with Canada Pension Plan, which will help the middle class, the party that voted against the middle class tax cut, the party that voted against the Canada Child Benefit, helping 9 out of 10 families, is talking about how we can help the middle class. We are focusing on how we can help Canadians to do better today and tomorrow.
I had no trouble hearing the question. I had some trouble hearing the answer. Let's all listen. The Honourable Member for South Surrey White Rock has.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Canadian communities have lost $15 billion in infrastructure funding in order to finance the Liberals' new bank. Less than 1% of the promised infrastructure project are actually under construction, and 0 full-time jobs have been created since the Liberals took office. The minister has also stated he still has lots of questions about the design of this bank. Mr. Speaker, why are the Liberals focusing their efforts on selling infrastructure to foreign interests instead of creating jobs for unworked Canadians here at home?
Well, Minister of Infrastructure and Communities.
Mr. Speaker, we committed
committed to invest more in infrastructure, even what we committed in 2016 budget. We added billions more to our initial commitment. So, and as well as of today, I can tell you, Mr. Speaker, that we have approved more than 983 projects with a combined value of almost $12 billion in all provinces and territories from coast to coast to coast.
The Honourable Member for Richmond, Arthabaska. Mr. Speaker, in addition to taking $15 billion earmarked for cities and putting it into this new bank, we learned at a Finance Committee meeting that the ones who will really be pulling the strings think that projects worth $100 million don't pay enough. They want $500 million projects. That's worse. Mr. Speaker, if we move in that direction, all municipalities, small and large, in the regions, will never see their projects completed. Are the Liberals, and in fact I'd invite the 40 members opposite to show some courage, to stand up, to talk to the Minister, and to get him to understand that we're not moving in the right direction.
Minister of Infrastructure and Communities.
Mr. Speaker, I hope the honourable member actually will talk to mayors and reeves throughout the country. Let me say what the mayor of Surrey has to say about our program. The city of Surrey applauds the federal government's commitment to provide stable grant funding and also look forward to additional opportunities the renewed announced infrastructure bank will offer. Let me tell you what the mayor of Vancouver has said about our program, Mr. Speaker. The new $35 billion infrastructure development bank and more trade and transportation infrastructure funding to help cities maximize their borrowing capacity is good news.
The Honourable Member for North Island, Powell River.
Mr. Speaker, the member from Spadina, Fort York, who claims to be the architect of privatization infrastructure bank, says anyone who criticizes it is, quote, stupid. What? Canadians who are concerned about tolls and user fees in their communities, he is calling them stupid. Canadians who understand that private investors who will only invest if they see a return, he is calling them stupid. Will the Liberal government denounce these disrespectful statements, or is it stupid of me to ask?
Order. The Honourable Minister. Order. The Honourable Minister of Infrastructure and Communities.
To invest historic investments in infrastructure, more than $180 billion over 12 years. We are doing that in partnership with provinces, municipalities, and territories, as well as we will engage the private sector to build more infrastructure that our communities need, to build more transit system, to build more affordable housing, to build more wastewater and water facilities so the Canadian people have safe drinking water to drink from coast to coast to coast. That is our goal, and that's the commitment we made, and that's the commitment we're delivering on, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Rimouski-Nejet-Témiscouata-des-Basques. Mr. Speaker, the Minister is pretending to not understand. The Liberal platform says, and I quote, "We will establish a Canadian infrastructure bank to provide low-cost financing for new infrastructure projects." But instead of thinking of borrowing at 1.3% as they can do now, the Liberals are prefer to line the pockets of their Bay Street friends by guaranteeing them returns of 7 to 9%. Is that the Liberal priority? Charging Canadians 5 times more than they should, and in addition to that, yielding control over infrastructure to their friends at BlackRock?
Well, Minister of Infrastructure and Communities.
Mr. Speaker, I hope that the honourable member actually listens to what mayors and reeves across the country are saying about our historic commitment to invest in infrastructure, as well as the creation of the infrastructure bank to build more infrastructure. They're excited about this plan. We are excited about this plan because we understand that infrastructure is the foundation of strong communities and to grow our economy, create jobs for the middle class, and create opportunities for Canadians from coast to coast to coast. Thank you.
I know the Honourable Member for Timmins, James Bay, wants to hear the answer, so I encourage him to listen. The Honourable Member for Carleton Trail, Eagle Creek.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday the Transport Minister didn't have a clue about the need to approve the required export permits for wood fibre LNG, so he sat in his chair rather than answer my question. The fact is, it is Transport Canada and not Environment Canada that's holding up this LNG project. and the jobs that go with it. The Liberals keep saying maybe to resource development, but hope these questions will just go away. When will the Transport Minister do his job and approve the export permits for wood fibre?
Exactly. Minister of Transport.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday I didn't want to embarrass my colleague when she asked her question. What she needs to know is that the way the process works is that wood fibre LNG needs to submit an application to the government, at which time we will look at it and decide on whether a permit will be issued. That application has not been submitted.
For Carleton Trail, Eagle Creek. Order. Enough. Order. The honourable member for Carleton Trail, Eagle. The honourable member for Carleton Trail, Eagle Creek.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the fact is LNG is an economic driver in the province of British Columbia and will benefit the entire company. If wood fibre doesn't get export permits from Transport Canada, it cannot proceed regardless of whether it received the Environment Minister's approval. There is no point in building this facility if they can't export their product. We know the Liberal talking points about working to grow our economy and create jobs. So, when will the Minister of Transport get out of the way, sign the export permits, and get this job-creating project underway?
Minister of Transport. Order.
Mr. Speaker, talk about rubbing it in here. My answer has not changed. I think that my honourable colleague needs to do her homework before she asks a question that shows that she is clearly ill-informed. When wood fibre LNG submits its application, we will review it under the Navigation Protection Act, and we will then make a decision. That's the way the process works.
Member for Chilliwack Hope.
Mr. Speaker, the Natural Resource Minister has said that Keystone XL pipeline not that important, and the Liberals are more focused on getting oil to Asian markets. I guess his Liberal colleagues didn't get the memo. Two of his own MPs from British Columbia have now said that the government should not support Kinder Morgan pipeline no matter what. The minister's advisory panel delayed the decision on the pipeline by 7 months and was supposedly done to foster social license. If the minister's panel didn't even convince Liberal MPs to accept the science, how was it anything but a complete waste of time and money?
The Minister of Natural Resources.
Well, actually, Mr. Speaker, we have said repeatedly all week that we do support the Keystone XL pipeline. We also gave Canadians an opportunity to express themselves on the Trans Mountain expansion, and they expressed themselves in 35,000 opinions that were sent to a website. And those opinions came from Canadians from coast to coast who have a real interest in this national project. We, unlike governments that came before us, will take those opinions seriously.
Member for Chilliwack Hope.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the minister's panel had no real powers and delayed the decision on this job-creating project by months. And in the end, it made no recommendations. The minister won't respond to it. And surprise, surprise, they found out that some people support the project and others oppose it. Glad we waited for that, Mr. Speaker. If the minister's new and improved panel process can't even convince Liberal MPs to support an independent, scientific, evidence-based process on pipelines, wasn't this public relations exercise just a huge waste of time and money?
Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, the reason that more than 35,000 Canadians responded to our request to hear their opinions is because for 10 years, nobody asked them. And now it's the job of the Government of Canada to take in all of that opinion from coast to coast to coast, to look at the work of the ministerial panel, to take very seriously accommodation and conversation with Indigenous groups, which was so insufficient by this government, but courts of appeal had to throw their cases out. We think that we're going to learn from the mistakes of others and do a better job.
Member from Nanaimo, Ladysmith.
Tuesday, we asked Liberals to take real action to prevent violence against Indigenous women. 70% of Inuit communities have no access to shelter. Amnesty International says the scale and severity of violence faced by Indigenous women and girls in Canada is a national human rights crisis. Yesterday, the Native Women's Association called government inaction a breach of human rights. Will the government take responsibility so no woman is ever turned away from a domestic violence shelter?
Well, Minister for the Status of Women.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And as the honourable member knows, we've been working all the past summer to listen to people, and we've heard very much those same concerns. Women are fleeing without a place to go. And that's why I'm so proud to be working on a federal gender-based violence strategy that will take into account the many needs and the diverse needs of the communities across our country, including sheltering spaces. Thank you very much.
Very good.
The honourable member for Abitibi Bay James and Nunavut. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Their own ministers agree that this government's investments are not sufficient to help our young Indigenous peoples. Yesterday in committee, the Minister of Health said that the federal investments in health infrastructure are not, and I quote, are just rather, and I quote, a drop in the bucket compared to the needs. So, Mr. Speaker, what is the minister waiting for to adequately fund infrastructure and services that these communities need?
Now the Minister of Health.
Mr. Speaker, as a Canadian, it grieves me to look at the realities about the state of Indigenous health in this country. To see that Indigenous peoples have a life expectancy that's about a decade shorter than non-Indigenous Canadians. To see the rates of diabetes, the rates of tuberculosis, the rates of suicide in Indigenous communities. We are determined to work with our Indigenous leaders in this country, to work with the people on the ground in communities to find solutions, to support them. We will make sure that we build a new relationship and that people, every Canadian in this country, enjoys good act.
Member for Oakville.
Mr. Speaker, there is a health crisis in Canada. The number of opioid-related deaths are skyrocketing across the country. This is not just a mental health and addictions issue. From our children experimenting at parties to addiction from prescription opioids for pain control, all Canadians are at risk. In my home province of Ontario, 663 people died in 2014 from opioid overdoses. Over 800 are projected to die in British Columbia this year. It's a national issue. We need to act now. Mr. Speaker, what will the government do to address this crisis?
Minister of Health.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the member from Oakville for this important question. We are in this country facing a public health crisis. It is a crisis of opioid overdoses and deaths. People die every day as a result, and that is one of the reasons why I am co-hosting a conference tomorrow and the following day, bringing together stakeholders from across the country, people with lived experience, health experts, governments, regulators, educators. We are going to make progress in this when we work collectively, when we develop a comprehensive plan, and I look forward to taking further steps on that.
Well, member for Thornhill.
Mr. Speaker, Canada must not forget Palestinian refugees. We should also not forget the Palestinian leadership that is keeping them refugees, holding them hostage, refusing to peacefully coexist with Israel. Now, Mr. Speaker, there's abundant evidence that misdirected UNRWA aid is part of the problem. Our Conservative government successfully delivered more than $70 million in aid to Palestinians by other means, not through UNRWA. Mr. Speaker, why will the Liberals not guarantee all aid gets to the refugees?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of International Development.
Palestinian refugees, especially women and children, are amongst the poorest and the most vulnerable. After extensive study and consideration, the Minister of International Development and the Francophonie announced putting Canada in line with all of our G7 partners $25 million in funding for UNRWA. We have put in place strong oversight provisions and robust mechanisms for this funding. This will not only support the 5.5 million Palestinian refugees to access basic services, but is crucial for the peace and security of the region.
The member for Thornhill.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians wonder why Canada's foreign policy initiatives with Russia must be discovered not from the minister, but from the Foreign Affairs website of the Russian Federation. It took a diligent journalist to discover, by scouring that website, that a Canadian assistant deputy minister has just been in Moscow to discuss the situation in Ukraine. Can the minister assure Canadians and freedom-loving Ukrainians that Canada will not waver in its sanctions against Russia for its invasion and occupation of Crimea and its continuing sponsorship of terrorist activities in eastern Ukraine?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Foreign Affairs.
I absolutely can assure the member opposite that this government is unequivocal about our support for Ukraine and our condemnation of Russian aggression. It was this government that increased sanctions against Russia beyond those of the other government. That means there are more sanctions now under this government. This government has given more support to Ukraine than the former government. Most recently, the minister announced $8.1 million in new funding to support the National Police of Ukraine. Canada has and always will stand steadfast with Ukraine, and we will continue to hold Russia to account. Thank you.
Member for Selkirk, Interlake, Eastman.
Mr. Speaker, since the Liberals won't do it, we thank our troops for neutralizing ISIS terrorists in combat. In February, the Prime Minister told his host that we do not have any troops on the ground at the front lines. But yesterday we learned Canadians are exchanging fire with ISIS on a daily basis. Why are the Liberals trying to hide the facts that our troops are on the front line and are using lethal force to eliminate ISIS terrorists?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary, Minister of National Defence.
Mr. Speaker, all of us, are incredibly proud of the work that our troops are doing to eliminate the threat of Daesh in that region. Our troops are equipped with robust rules of engagement that allow them to protect themselves, our partners and civilians, from emerging and immediate threats. I can say it no better than General Ryu, who said, "My forces continue to advise and assist Iraqi security forces in their fight through the provision, training, advice, and planning, and the conduct of those operations in accordance with our mandate, with the CDS orders, and the rules of engagement."
For Selkirk, Interlake, Eastman.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the Liberals promised to end Canada's combat mission in Iraq. Now, the Liberal Transport Minister once defined a combat mission as the following, and I quote, "A combat operation is a military operation where the use or threatened use of force, including lethal force, is essential to impose will upon an armed opponent or to accomplish a mission." Now, that definition sounds like a perfect description of what our troops are engaged in today and possibly could even be engaged in tomorrow in Mali. Will the Prime Minister start telling the truth that he broke his promise and admit that Canadian troops are in direct combat with ISIS?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, the honourable member and I were in the same committee meeting on Tuesday morning with the General, the Chieftain of Defence Staff. At that time, he made the distinction between a training, advise, assist mission and a training, advise, assist, and accompany mission. He was abundantly clear. He said clearly we are in a training, advise, and assist mission, and as General Rouleau has said many times, to assist the security forces of the sovereign state of Iraq. The Chief of Defence Staff has himself made this point unequivocally. We are.
The honourable member for London Fanshawe.
Mr. Speaker, veterans' families struggle every day. They are not receiving sufficient support from Veterans Affairs. And as we all know, it's not just the veteran who signs up to serve, but the whole family. Natasha, a widow from Nova Scotia, shared with me that she is struggling to access benefits that her husband, a veteran of 22 years, should have received long before his death. Will the minister start listening to families, fix the gaps, and affirm the government's sacred obligation to veterans and their families?
Honourable Minister of Veterans Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the member for her question, and I couldn't agree more that when a man or woman serves, their entire family serves along with them. That's why it's very important that any individual who needs help and assistance reach out to our department, go through the processes, and we will work diligently to process those claims. I also know if there's an issue with Veterans Affairs Canada, we also have a robust appeal process that is an arm's length appeal where people can get their claims rectified through that manner. I encourage her to continue to reach out to Veterans Affairs Canada to get the help they need where and when they need it. We're here to listen.
The honourable member for Laurier St. Marie. Mr. Speaker, we have very little information from the government concerning the selection criteria used for Canada's next peacekeeping missions. To date, the government has refused to include opposition parties in the discussion. Can the minister tell us when this issue will be debated in Parliament, and can he confirm that the Central African Republic is one of the potential choices for the deployment of a peacekeeping mission?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of National Defence.
Mr. Speaker, we are working closely with our allies and multilateral organizations in the fight against terrorism and in meeting today's security challenges. The minister, as you will know, has been to Africa twice. He's brought with him General Dallaire and Justice Biwell, and both not Biwell, and both are experts on conflict. And as he's taken advice, he is going into these missions with his eyes wide open. I apologize.
Member for Kamloops, Thompson, Caribou.
Mr. Speaker, when we look at the history of the Liberal Party, they paid little attention to grassroots Indigenous community members. They did not support protecting women and children through matrimonial real property rights, and they refused to ensure that basic financial information is easily available. This is a track record of paternalism. We now have band members being forced to go to court. Why is the minister refusing to empower community members who just want to know how their money is being spent?
Well, Minister of Indigenous and Northern Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, I think it's appropriate to remind the member that she seems to forget that during the Kelowna Accord, developed in true partnership with Indigenous people, there was a First Nations Auditor General to have been created. The member is also forgetting how her government tore up the Accord when they took office. Then, after years of doing nothing, they pushed through an ill-conceived law made in Ottawa, top-down. On this side of the House, we're committed to working in partnership towards real measures that will increase transparency and accountability, and we will get that done.
Member for Kamloops, Thompson, Caribou.
Mr. Speaker, you just are hearing the minister defending that band members have to go to the basement of her department or go to a secret website to get information. This reality was described by Loretta Burnstick. Quote, you take your concerns to Indian Affairs say you have to go back to the Chief and Council, you bring it back to the Chief and Council, it gets swept under the rug, you go to the RCMP, you got to have proof, so they spin our people around. How can the minister justify creating this runaround for community members?
Minister of Indigenous and Northern Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, I remind the member that the Chief and Council are duly elected and that they are elected on an every 2-year basis. It is absolutely, that is the ultimate accountability for every one of us in this room. We insist that the Chief and Council report to their members and to my department, and that's the way it is, and we will review any additions or reviews with First Nations as we go forward.
The member for Medicine Hat, Cardston, Warner, order.
Mr. Speaker, our Conservative government introduced an act which empowered First Nations communities by giving them tools that they need to hold their leadership account. In my riding, the minister's blatant disregard of the First Nations Financial Transparency Act has made it nearly impossible for members of the Blood Reserve to access the most basic of information. Community members are in the dark and have no clue if funds are being distributed properly for health care, housing, and other essential needs. When will the minister stop enabling this lack of transparency and start enforcing the law?
Exactly. The Minister of Indigenous and Northern Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, we take all allegations of fraud very seriously. Under the previous government, work on the audit for the Canadian Reserve was stopped in July of 2015, while the department sought a legal opinion on the jurisdiction of the matter, particularly with own source revenue in that reserve. It was determined that the department does not have jurisdiction to investigate own source revenue. As a result, the audit was not completed and there is no report. In accordance with the department's usual practice, all...
The honourable member for Tobique-Mactaquac.
Mr. Speaker, in August I held a stakeholder roundtable on rural economic development in my riding of Tobique-Mactaquac with business leaders from across the riding from various sectors, and have just presented this report to the minister. As one of 32 Atlantic MPs who believe strongly in this government's approach to rural economic development and the Atlantic First strategy, could the minister please update us on the good work the government is doing to move the rural economic development agenda forward. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Minister of Economic Development.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the member from Tobique-Mactaquac for his question and his report highlighting issues faced by small and medium-sized enterprises in his riding. Of course, we welcome these issues raised in this report around immigration, skills development, and of course, technology adoption. This is very consistent with the work that we're doing around the Atlantic Growth Strategy. And the Minister of Immigration put forward a pilot project to advance the immigration challenges in that region. And I look forward to working with the member and all 32 MPs from Atlantic Canada to advance the Atlantic Growth Strategy. Thank you very much.
The member for Lakeland.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals' attack on rural Canada is insulting. The Immigration Minister's edict on Vegreville could be just the start. If it's done in Alberta, who's to say it won't be done to the exact same office in Sydney, Nova Scotia, or to the Pay Processing Centre in Miramichi, New Brunswick, where towns and hundreds of workers depend on those jobs. These are the kind of federal public service jobs that are sustainable in rural towns. Removing these 280 jobs from Vegreville is like cutting 55,000 jobs out of Edmonton. Why is the minister against rural Canadians and against rural jobs?
The Honourable Minister of Immigration.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the member for her question, and I understand people in Vegreville are upset, but I am saying that the business case for a move was very, very strong, that our first commitment is to have better standards in service and processing times in immigration, and that every individual currently working for my department, whether part-time or full-time in Vegreville, will have work in Edmonton, and indeed that there will be a net increase in total jobs in Alberta.
Member for order. The member for Saskatoon West.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thousands of Canadians are diagnosed with cancer every year due to exposure to asbestos. And every single day action is delayed, more lives are put at risk. Yesterday, I tabled a bill for a complete ban on asbestos. The Canadian Cancer Society, labour groups, as well as millions of Canadians are calling for a ban now. The minister has said the science is clear, so what's the holdup?
Honourable Minister of Science.
Mr. Speaker, ensuring the health and safety of Canadians is a top priority for our government. When it comes to asbestos, the science is clear. That's why our government has committed to a ban on asbestos, and I will be announcing additional details on how we will fulfill this commitment, including timelines by the end of the year. Our government has already taken important steps to reach this important goal, including a ban on the use of asbestos in new government construction and a national asbestos inventory.
The Honourable Member for Madawaska, Estigouche. Mr. Speaker, middle-class Canadians work harder than ever, but many of them fear that they haven't saved enough money for their retirement. Can the minister responsible explain what he intends to do to cope with this situation? What does he pledge to do with regard to the CPP to help our fellow citizens achieve their objective of a robust retirement?
Denise.
The Honourable Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, I would like to thank the member for Madawaska-Restigouche for his question. Here in Canada, 1 out of 4 families does not save enough for retirement. This situation is unacceptable, and we are determined to take action. The CPP is designed to help Canadians to save up to 50% for their retirement. We are proud to help Canadians improve their lot, and we will continue to make that a priority. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's been almost a month since the Minister of Public Works told Canadians that there was no end in sight to the Liberal Phoenix pay fiasco. Since blowing off her deadline, she's misled Canadians on the scope, depth, and severity of the backlog. Yesterday, her officials would not even provide a timeline to resolve the outstanding 18,000 cases and more than 200,000 transactions that still need to be processed. This minister won't commit to a deadline, and she won't tell us the full numbers of backlog cases. What else is the minister hiding from us about the Phoenix pay fiasco?
Honourable Minister Minister of Public Services and Procurement.
Mr. Speaker, we take the issues of public service pay problems very seriously. And that is why we have taken so many additional measures to deal with these ongoing problems. In fact, the measures that we have put in place have resulted in us now being able to deal with an additional 100,000 cases a month. And we've done that on top of making sure that 300,000 employees get paid every 2 weeks.
The honourable member from Manicouagan. Mr. Speaker, the Newfoundland government is too broke to pay the $266 million it owes Ottawa. But what does Ottawa do? It simply increases their borrowing capacity. They say, you're broke? Okay, we'll make you more broke. With the money of all taxpayers, including Quebec taxpayers, we're going to allow you to get more into debt to compete with Hydro-Quebec. But if you can't pay, Ottawa will pay in your place, in your stead. No problem. Will this government allow parliamentarians to debate the low guarantee for Muskrat Falls before signing the contract with Newfoundland? The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources. Mr. Speaker, the cooperation with the provinces and territories is at the very heart of our government's approach. It is a positive thing that Newfoundland, Labrador, and Quebec have a good agreement on energy. We give value to clean energy, and that will help reduce greenhouse gas emissions. The Honourable Member for Manicouagan. Mr. Speaker, $9.5 billion for a population of 500,000 is as if Ottawa guaranteed a loan to Quebec of $144 billion. That is too much money. Newfoundland will never be able to pay it back. We will be stuck with the bill. Ouch, yes, exactly. And in fact, Quebec is providing unfair competition to, or rather, Newfoundland is providing unfair competition to Quebec. Will they allow for a debate on the loan guarantee to Muskrat Falls? Yes or no? Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
To learn that the government of Quebec has determined that it would be a good idea to engage in conversations with the government of Newfoundland and Labrador, a very good example of two provinces working together in common cause. And when provinces work together with the support of the national government, only good things can happen, Mr. Speaker.
I believe the honourable member, the honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of National Defence has a point of order arising out of question period.
I do, Mr. Speaker, and thank you for recognizing me. In answer to the member from Laurier St. Marie, I misidentified Madam Justice Arbour, and I want, if I may, have the record corrected to recognize the Madam Justice's name. Thank you.
I believe that the honourable member for Leeds Grenville Thousand. Oh, I see the member for Timmins James Bay rising out of point of order.
Mr. Speaker, you know I have enormous respect for you in this House in the 12 years I've been here, so I come into this House to get engaged in spirited debates, and I'm very pleased that the Speaker did point out that my spirited debate with the member from Spadina Fort York was actually interfering with other spirited debates in the House, and so I very much appreciate that, and I'm very sorry if we were so spirited I forgot that we were in question period, so I thank you very much for your role, Mr. Speaker.
I thank the honourable member for his gracious apology. The honourable member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, and Rideau Lakes, I believe, has the usual Thursday question.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to ask the government